Okay, our next topic today will be autonomous. Do you say
Autonomous.
autonomous vehicles? Oops. Okay. Since Ford has pledged to deliver fleets of fully autonomous cars without steering wheel or pedals by 2021, do you foresee them having anything resembling a go bus type vehicle to accommodate wheelchair users like me?
The short answer is yes.
You really think so?
And here's how it's going to happen. I don't know if you know, I was actually appointed by the governor to be on a thing called the Council for Future Mobility. And I was asked to be on it to help represent, a disability perspective. And at the table, no exaggeration, are the lead designers for Ford, GM, Fiat Chrysler, Toyota. People like Continental, which are these tier one suppliers, developing, the machinery to make this stuff happen. And I keep saying, people like you need to be the ones teaching them how to make it work. Because if it works for you, it's going to work for me, right?
Right.
But if it works for me, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So why design for me, design for Scott? And a couple of them are like, So I think some good stuff's going to be happening. And the most important thing I promise is you're not going to talk to me. I need you to talk to Scott. And how is are your designers talking with Scott and other folks and our friend Cheris, who's totally blind, and others? Because the technology, as we speak, it's not autonomous, it's automated. The slight difference is an autonomous vehicle is you just jump in and say, take me to the Alpine Meyer store, and it'll go there, okay? Automated is that it follows a loop it follows the path it learned.
So it's on a traditional route, like a bus.
Right. Like a Dash bus downtown Grand Rapids would be the best example. Dash buses go around downtown, not in circles, but through around routes. There is an autonomous or an automated vehicle in Ann Arbor that's going to be used. The cool thing is it's very easy to add a ramp to this thing because it's just a box. And there's a bench on each side and there's a lot of space in the middle, more than enough space for you. They've just got to make sure that ramp is easy to deploy, and who's the one who's going to do the deploying. So as they work that technology in there, it's already there.
I'm thinking of tie down. That's a little tricky.
And that's another trick, is there a tie down system that you're able to roll into? But if the robot can drive the car, the robot should be able to find a way to grab a hold of your wheels and hold you down.
What concerns me there is there are no two wheelchairs alike practically, so.
Absolutely, and then there could be some designs to how do we standardize not the actual wheelchair, but is there a standardization like all power wheelchairs plug into the same electric grid? All electric wheelchairs have to be 110 or 120 voltage. So you can't charge your battery unless you have that same system. Well, is there a way to put some kind of securement clip that would have an embedded electrode that basically sends out a little message, I'm here, clip on here, and it just comes up and clips, And that's not far-fetched. We might think it's Star Trek, but that stuff's happening. The sensors just get cheaper and cheaper.
Wow.
And the technology behind it. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening. However, what's not happened yet, from my perspective, is that again, you, I'm not making this up, you are in Detroit hanging out with these people. Here's how it needs to work. Because I like to say this, there are trillions of dollars, this is not an exaggeration, there are trillions of dollars to be made on autonomous vehicles. They're investing billions of dollars, again, not an exaggeration, they're investing billions of dollars to capture trillions of dollars. And all we want is $1 million so we can include people with disabilities, support people with disabilities in that design process. Is it worth $1 million, right?
Sure,
We're not
well,
asking for billions, just a teeny little million. So again, I'm there advocating. So when I ask you to go to Detroit, you catch a Lions game, and then on Monday
hey, that
morning,
works for me.
on Monday morning when you wake up sad, you can go out to the Ford test field. And actually, Michigan Department of Transportation and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, it's called the American Mobility Center, or the American Center for Mobility, ACM. It's what was Willow Run Airport. Back to when we talked about people surviving war, great things coming out of it. Well, Willow Run Airport was, part of the Arsenal for Democracy. They made a lot of bombers there in the Second World War, okay? They're turning that into the largest test track in the world to test these vehicles. So that's in the state of Michigan. Like I said, I do not exaggerate. It is one of my goals to get you and other folks together in Detroit working with these people, and they want it. They don't know they need it yet, but they've got an inkling. I'm not making this stuff up. So be ready. Be
I
ready.
know we had a meeting about a month ago.
Yeah.
Do we have another one scheduled soon?
Check with Adeline. You can always look at our Facebook page for the Concerned Citizens for Improved Transportation,
Okay.
what's happening and what are coming up. But definitely keeping posted on that.
Okay. I'll try to list that for everybody when I edit the shows in case you're interested. Since this is all cutting edge technology, like the Wright brothers started well over a century ago, how can all states agree on something they know very little about in 4 years?
Well, primarily because there's a lot of money to be made if we do it, and a lot of money to be lost if we don't.
So that's
And
the driving force.
That's
you
one
can
driving
see.
force.
Yeah.
It's
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Actually, a pun intended. This is going to drive us to where we need to be, and both legislatively and for real. So it's there is work in Washington. I mean, where Michigan, your question kind of said, Michigan's just kind of like the wild, wild west. But there is some good structure behind it, that Michigan wants to be supportive of this, because as some of the folks like to say, there's a lot of testing happening in Arizona. Why? Because California made it too hard to test in California. And why Arizona?
Too many restrictions.
Too many restrictions and stuff like that. Because right now the driving code says you got to have a person at the steering wheel. Well, how can you test something that doesn't have a steering wheel?
If you're required to have
Right.
a human driver.
Right. And
Yeah.
some of the laws say, to operate a vehicle, and maybe within the definition of operate, it means you're the person in an autonomous vehicle. But to operate a vehicle, you must have a valid driver's license. Well, if you're legally blind or fully blind, you're not going to get a driver's license. So does that law the unintended consequence, right? And of
Right.
course, when people start talking about the future, the vehicle's going to be empty. It could be empty coming to Easttown, picking me up, driving out to your house, right? We go out to watch the Packers versus the Lions, right? And then it drops me off first. And then, but while we're watching the game, it goes off and picks up other people, comes back, drops me off, and then takes you. And then again, it's going to be empty at some part of this. And it's out there by itself. And so we're still trying to get our arms around all of that. But again, I personally believe it's going to be here way faster than most people think,
Yeah,
because there's the way computers have changed. Again, when we were kids, there were no computers, right? And now our
I guess other than
Atari, right? And Pong. I mean, now it's all virtual reality and all this stuff, and it just keeps getting, I don't want to say it's getting better, because I got my own opinion about video games, but at least it gets better technology, right? And so,
Exactly.
you know, and our smartphones, you know, just how many few years ago did we just have our flip phones? We thought we were the coolest people. And my niece, who would, you know, could text just on the little keypad, right? You'd have to text like ABC, and you'd pick the letter you wanted, right? And
Oh,
now,
how frustrating.
yeah, but we thought it was the coolest thing. But now that is, but how many? That was just a few years ago. And now you got a keyboard, you know, and then talk to text. That technology keeps getting better and better. So, and there's a technology that was invented for people with disabilities. Back to, that's the wisdom to our friends in Washington, or Washington, the Council on Future Mobility. Text messages. Remember when there were TTYs? I mean, TTYs, the telephones to text for people who had deafness or have deafness. Texting was invented for people that
With
couldn't
hearing
hear,
problem,
right?
yeah.
And so this idea of, we all text now, you know? So it's like technology.
Yeah,
that
what
it's-
can help one
Absolutely.
minority group, or what
Yep.
can help all groups.
Yep. And people are going to find a way to bring it to a bigger market. If I can sell one of these, cool. But if I can sell 1 million of these, cooler. So, yeah.
Do you foresee any serious backlashes, since Michigan is pretty much allowing anything goes in relation to autonomous vehicles policy as stated by Kirk Strudel, the director of MDOT. Did I say his name right?
It's Steidel, but
Stale. Sorry, Mr. Stale.
that's right. And he'll apologize. He's an awesome guy. He really is. I've gotten to know him a little bit through the years. He's one of the co-chairs of that Council on Future Mobility. I mean, the backlash is going to be that, yeah, what's going to be the cost to do it? What's the cost not to do it? Some of the backlash might be, are we going to make things better for the autonomous vehicles, and then we still have, you know, the other, like my side street in the city of Grand Rapids needs work, but it's probably not going to get work for another 20 years because so few cars go down it. So
It's not high priority.
yeah, and so are we gonna put too much resources into this, making it cool for the folks that can afford? But that's a whole nother shift that's occurring. It's not just the people who can afford their own autonomous vehicle, because the statistic is the average car is only used 5 or 10% of a day. Like my vehicle it's been sitting out there, right, since I got here. I hope it's still sitting out there, right?
Yeah, well, I'm still trying to grasp I see now you can rent out your car.
Absolutely.
That seems a little scary.
Yeah. Well, and it's, you know, I mean, Uber, which is all about people using their cars and driving them, Uber is also investing a lot into autonomous vehicles because, again, they could have a fleet of vehicles out there also responding to people, and they don't have to worry about, is there a driver that's willing to take this trip at 3 a.m.? I know a vehicle's ready because I'm sending the robot out. So, I mean, there'll always be some backlash to any kind of technology. I mean, the one thing it was an interesting dilemma as a philosophy major from many years ago, that, you know, do you program the computer? Like, what happens if you're sitting in the back? You and I, again, we're sitting on the back. We're on our way, you know, to watch that football game, and a little kid runs in front of the car. chasing a ball. Okay, because in theory, the autonomous vehicle is going to be safer than it's safer than people driving cars.
Because it has built-in reaction.
Built-in reaction. It's always aware. I might get distracted, like, oh, look at that, it's a cat. It's like, right? Or texting, or
God, yes.
drinking coffee, people putting on makeup. We're all, distracted, tired. People say being tired while driving is worse than being like having one beer and driving. So we are, unfortunately, 90% of accidents are human error. It's not mechanical failures. So this being said, the ethical dilemma is, so you and I are driving along and this kid chases a ball out in front of us. And the computer calculates really fast, I can steer this way and miss the kid. But if I steer this way, am I going to hit this old guy on the sidewalk? Or am I going to crash into a telephone pole and I'm going to hurt Dave and Scott? So what should I do? Should I just hit the kid and I won't hurt Dave and Scott, so that's 2 for 1? Do I miss the kid and knock out the old guy because the kid's worth more than the old guy? And it's like, didn't even think of that. Because we talk about, machine learning and artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, we still start that ball rolling. We're the ones who program the computer today before artificial intelligence. We tell the computer, do this or do that, or pick the best way to do this, and it figures it out, but we still gave it its basic parameters. So some of that stuff, will there be outrage that the car just says, oh, the less damage to society was to run over the little kid, or to run over the old guy, or to crash in the telephone pole and Dave and Scott are in intensive care. But if I'm driving and I choose one of those 3, people are going to say, well, don't feel bad. You did the best you could, right? Because I hope I'm going to do the best I can. But so there's all that, the realness of life comes into the Star Trek vision. And so how does that realness come in?
Wow, we're definitely in for a heck of a future, that's for sure.
The future has always been a heck of a thing, hasn't it?
I can't complain.
All right.
I feel like I grew up in the right time, as opposed to back in the Ed Roberts days. I cannot imagine what that period was like.
Yep.